To Route 12, they called it the Devil's Backbone. Winding through Marion, Indiana, it whispered tales of vanished travelers, strange lights, and a hitchhiker nobody dared pick up. Locals knew better than to tempt fate on that lonely stretch of asphalt, especially after dark. But Mark, new to town, hadn't heard the stories, not yet. He was about to learn. It was late. Rain lashed against the windshield, blurring the world outside. Mark gripped the steering wheel, his headlights cutting through the darkness. He was heading home from a late meeting, wishing he'd listened to the warnings about Route 12. Each shadow seemed to hold a hidden danger. Each rustle of leaves a whispered threat. Then he saw her.
Who is that, out here in this weather?
A lone figure stood by the roadside, illuminated by the car's headlights. A young woman, her back turned, wearing a white dress that seemed to glow in the darkness. She was drenched, her hair plastered to her head, her thumb extended in a silent plea for a ride. Guilt tugged at Mark. He couldn't leave her stranded on a night like this. He pulled over.
Need a ride? Hop in, I can't leave you out here.
She slid into the passenger seat without a word, her silence heavier than the storm raging outside. Her eyes, dark and empty, stared straight ahead. Mark tried to make conversation, asking where she was headed, but his attempts were met with a chilling silence. The air grew cold, a bone-deep chill that had nothing to do with the rain. He began to regret his decision.
So, where are you headed? Anywhere specific?
He began to regret his decision. The girl suddenly pointed a pale finger towards a dilapidated house perched atop a hill, its silhouette a jagged wound against the stormy sky. A single light flickered within like a watchful eye. The house had stood there for as long as anyone could remember, a relic of a bygone era, shrouded in mystery and whispered tales. The townsfolk often spoke of strange occurrences, of lights that danced in the windows when no one was home, and of eerie sounds that echoed through the night. It was a place that children dared each other to approach, but none ever did. The house seemed to breathe with a life of its own, its wooden beams creaking and groaning as if sharing secrets with the wind.
Stop here. This is where it all began and where it must end. The woman's voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. Her eyes, though filled with fear, held a determination that was unshakable. She had been here before, many years ago, and the memories of that night still haunted her dreams. She knew that the answers they sought lay within those crumbling walls, and that they had no choice but to face whatever awaited them.
She whispered, her voice a dry rasp that sent shivers down Mark's spine. He obeyed, his foot trembling on the brake. This was madness, he knew it, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had no choice. The air around them seemed to thicken, pressing down on them with an almost tangible weight. Mark's mind raced with questions, but he knew better than to voice them. The woman beside him was a mystery, her past a puzzle he had yet to piece together, but he trusted her, inexplicably and completely. He had seen the fear in her eyes, and he knew that whatever they were about to face, they would face it together.
This was madness, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had no choice. The road ahead was dark and uncertain, but turning back was not an option. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. The house loomed before us, a silent sentinel watching our every move. I could feel its eyes on me, judging, waiting. The wind howled through the trees, carrying with it the scent of rain and decay. Every step I took felt like a step closer to the unknown, to a destiny I could not escape.
Mark stands face to face with an elderly man on the porch of the house. The man's expression is a mixture of sadness and understanding. He had been waiting for this moment, for the return of those who had once been lost to the darkness. His eyes, though clouded with age, held a spark of recognition. "You've come," he said, his voice a soft whisper that seemed to blend with the wind. "I knew you would." Mark felt a chill run down his spine. The old man's words were both a welcome and a warning. The journey they had embarked on was far from over, and the answers they sought were still hidden within the shadows of the old house on the hill. An old man, his face etched with years of sorrow, stood on the porch. He seemed to expect them.
"You've seen her?"
he stated, his voice heavy with unspoken grief. He told Mark a tale of a young woman, a tragic accident on this very road, a life cut short.
"She's looking for something she lost that night."
The old man led Mark inside, and the air thick with dust and the scent of decay. He pointed to a worn leather suitcase on a table covered in years of grime. The room was dimly lit, with only a single flickering bulb, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and the floor creaked under their weight. Mark could feel the history of the place, as if the walls themselves whispered secrets of the past.
It's hers. She won't rest until it's returned to its rightful place. The old man's voice was filled with a mix of sorrow and urgency, his eyes pleading with Mark to understand the gravity of the situation. He spoke of a promise made long ago, a vow to return the suitcase to its owner, a task that had haunted him for years.
Mark hesitantly took the suitcase, its weight surprisingly heavy in his hands. It hummed with an odd energy, sending chills down his spine. He could feel the pulse of something alive within it, something that demanded to be acknowledged. As he held it, memories of stories his grandmother used to tell him about lost treasures and haunted objects flooded his mind.
Thank you. Mark's voice was barely a whisper, his gratitude mixed with a sense of foreboding. He knew this was more than just a simple errand. It was a journey into the unknown, a test of his courage and resolve.
But the house was now empty. The suitcase lay open on the passenger seat, revealing nothing but dust. Mark stared at it, puzzled. Had the contents vanished, or had they never been there at all? The air around him felt colder, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The journey ahead was uncertain, but he knew he had to see it through, to uncover the truth behind the mysterious suitcase and the secrets it held. Mark turned to thank the old man, but he was gone. The street was eerily quiet, the only sound being the distant hum of a streetlight. Mark's heart raced as he scanned the area, hoping to catch a glimpse of the old man who had helped him just moments ago, but there was nothing, only the empty street stretching out into the darkness. He felt a chill run down his spine, the kind that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. It was as if the old man had vanished into thin air, leaving no trace behind. The house was empty, the air still and silent. Mark hesitated at the doorway, peering into the darkness. The house seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for something. He stepped inside, the floorboards creaking under his weight. The silence was oppressive, wrapping around him like a thick fog. He called out, but his voice was swallowed by the darkness. There was no response, only the echo of his own voice bouncing off the walls. The house felt abandoned, forgotten by time, yet there was an unsettling feeling that he was not alone. He rushed back to the car, the suitcase clutched tightly in his hand. His mind raced with questions, each one more unsettling than the last. Why had the old man disappeared? What was in the suitcase that made it so important? He reached the car, his breath coming in short, sharp gasps. The night seemed to close in around him, the darkness pressing down like a heavy blanket. He fumbled with the keys, his hands shaking, and finally managed to unlock the door. He threw the suitcase onto the passenger seat and slid behind the wheel, his heart pounding in his chest. The passenger seat was empty. Mark stared at it, half expecting the old man to suddenly reappear, but the seat remained vacant, a silent reminder of the night's strange events. He reached over and touched the suitcase, its surface cool and smooth under his fingers. What secrets did it hold? He had no idea, but he knew he had to find out. The sense of urgency gnawed at him, pushing him to keep moving, to keep searching for answers. The girl in the white dress had vanished, as if she were never there at all. Mark's mind replayed the moment over and over, trying to make sense of it. She had been so real, so tangible, yet now she was gone, leaving behind only questions. Who was she? Why had she appeared to him, and where had she gone? The road stretched out before him, empty and desolate, mirroring the emptiness he felt inside. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, that unseen eyes were following his every move. Only the faint scent of rain and a lingering chill remained as proof of her eerie presence. The mist swirled around him, adding to the surreal atmosphere. It was as if the night itself was alive, whispering secrets that he couldn't quite hear. He shivered, pulling his jacket tighter around him. The chill seemed to seep into his bones, making him feel cold and alone. He glanced around, hoping to see some sign, some clue that would lead him to the girl. But there was nothing, only the mist and the darkness.
Where did she go? Mark's voice was barely a whisper, filled with confusion and a hint of desperation. He looked around, hoping for an answer, but the night remained silent. The empty seat beside him seemed to mock him, a stark reminder of the girl who had vanished without a trace. He felt a sense of loss, as if something precious had been taken from him. He didn't know why, but he felt a connection to the girl, a bond that he couldn't explain. And now she was gone, leaving him with nothing but questions.
Mark drives away from the house, the suitcase on the seat beside him. The road ahead is dark, but he is no longer afraid. He feels a sense of determination, a resolve to uncover the truth. The night's events have left him shaken, but also stronger. He knows that he can't turn back, that he must keep moving forward. The suitcase holds the key, he is sure of it, and he is determined to unlock its secrets, no matter what it takes. The journey ahead is uncertain, but he is ready to face whatever comes his way. The road ahead is dark, but he is no longer afraid. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the path before him. The forest looms on either side, its shadows deep and impenetrable. But Mark feels a sense of calm, a quiet confidence that he will find the answers he seeks. The night's mysteries have only just begun to unravel, and he is ready to follow the trail no matter where it leads. The journey is long, but he is not alone. The memory of the girl in the white dress stays with him, a guiding light in the darkness. Mark never saw the girl again. He left the suitcase by the side of the road, just as the old man had instructed. The rain stopped, the clouds parted, and the moon cast an ethereal glow on the wet asphalt. He didn't know if the hitchhiker was a restless spirit or a figment of local folklore, but he knew one thing for sure. Some stories, some roads, hold a darkness that lingers long after the sun sets.